Can you hear me, Tabitha? Hey, Donna. Good to see you.
Morning.
How's everything?
Good.
Good, good. It's a smiley face. You guys are back home safe and sound?
Yeah. No more
Yay.
adventures for a while.
No more adventures for a while, huh?
That's what we
Tapped
get.
out on the adventure train.
And not till we get the tires. We gotta get all new tires for the back.
Oh, gosh.
And
I think I told you I've had a few RVs, but oh my God, our tires expensive.
they are. And the reason we're getting all new ones is just because it's been sitting for so long.
Yeah.
So, and we want to go cross country this winter, so we need to.
I will tell you, and just as an aside, and you probably already knew this, or Jason knows this, is because of how there are different places that sell RV tires, right?
Yeah.
But the thing of it is you have to make sure that you're not getting new old stock, only because that stuff, the sidewall gets brittle because it just sits.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you from experience, because I literally had this happen to me. It's just like, oh my God, I just paid $800 for this tire and it's blown after 700 miles. Are you serious? So, yeah.
Well,
And
Costco sells RV tires, but they don't install them.
oh, yeah. So I'm not sure if you have a Bruce's up there. Find a Bruce's tire shop.
Bruce's.
There are a number of them around, but they're great prices, all that good stuff. So, good morning, Jaynette. Long time no holla.
Good morning.
How's everything?
Good. How about you?
Fantastic. Hanging in.
Good. Same here.
Good. Finally getting a little decent weather, huh?
I think it went away again. It's ugly
Well,
outside right
I
now.
will tell you, 80 degrees, I'm perfectly happy with. Anything over that, I'm just like, oh my God, take this off my plate, please. Let's not do this. But
I'll take it.
yeah, I'll take it. Exactly. We'll give it one more minute and get started. Yeah, we'll give it one more minute. How's business these days, Jenna?
I just put my Oakland property back on the market and actually went and
What you
sat
put the price at?
1.25.
Okay.
Yeah.
That should turn the corner.
Worked with Curbio. Things turned
How
out
was that
great.
experience?
They had an amazing project manager. I think they can do a little better with the contractors that they work with. And it would be just probably us helping them to get some better contractors in their pipeline.
Yeah.
And because they are an East Coast company.
Yep.
And otherwise, everything else is great.
They kind of hire contractors like Angie's List in a sense. They're kind of like that in a way. Yeah, you're like, oh, so are you? No, oh, huh? I thought that. Okay, well, never mind. So what are you gonna do? Yeah,
and I'm like a little picky, so
rightfully so.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
but things turned out good, and the good thing is that they have someone that knows what she's doing, and she
good.
knows she knows construction, she knows the industry. She's also a realtor as well, so
Good.
that was a plus.
The important thing is, was your seller happy?
She kind of like let me take the reins on everything, so
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah.
yeah.
I will tell you this though. I know I do this all the time. So I already know what you're gonna say. But you have to be super careful when you do take the reins on a project like that.
Mm-hmm.
Only just because if something went wrong, you are now the culprit. You are hey, I was hands off. This was you. This was your show.
Well, she came by and she was like, "Wow."
So I told you this very real story, right? I had an agent in San Francisco who was relatively new to the business. She'd been in business about 2 years, give or take. she was buying, or her buyer was buying a property in Oakland, and the roof was gone. I mean, bad. It was just completely worthless. So the buyer and seller had agreed to replace the roof. Uh, but the kicker is the agent hired a roofer and took the roof off while it was in escrow without approval from the seller.
Ouch.
So oh, worse than an ouch. I'm just gonna tell you right now, that one still stings. But yeah, I mean, everything fell on the agent because the agent didn't actually ask the right questions, or more specifically, didn't really understand the process of it's a process. If the seller's
It
agreeing to
is.
do it, let the seller and the buyer work out who the heck they're going to hire and all that good stuff. But it didn't happen, and she happened to know somebody who's going to do a roof, and the buyer's like, "Hey, great, let's go for it." And transiently, the seller said, "Hey, well, we're going to do this thing," but I don't think all parties understood until one day the seller comes by and the roof's off. And so,
And she's like, "What's going on?"
oh, it was, yeah, it was interesting conversations to be had. Anyway, that cost me and the brokerage at that time a bit of money, So it's lots of clients will tell us, go ahead and do the thing because they don't want to be responsible, but it
Mhm.
also shifts liability and risk. So
Absolutely.
anytime we're operating outside of the scope of our licensure, we're already in trouble. So,
Yes.
but
Yeah,
I'm sure you feel,
normally I would not because you are absolutely correct. I
yeah.
had to get rid of a client recently because I was doing too much.
Oh yeah, folks get funky. Let's
Yeah,
just call it what it
yeah,
is. Folks
yeah,
get very
and
funky.
they have
So
this expectation and entitlement that we have to do it.
100%, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes we
Mhm.
don't know where our line is drawn for sure. Uh,
Mhm.
good morning, Carla. How are you? Carla, have we been in a meeting or a room before? I don't think so.
Good morning. It's my
There
first
she is.
time.
The first time. All
Yeah.
right. Love it. Love a first timer. Okay. So, Carla, what market are you working?
Phoenix, Arizona.
Phoenix. How is Phoenix?
It's we still have low inventory.
Well, you're in great company because everyone has low inventory.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, statistically from NAR, there's been no real significant impact since April of this year. Interest rates are firmly sitting just a little bit a shelf above 7. So I think we can all um, commiserate on that point. But good news is coming into summer, you've got a lot of pent up sellers, just like Janette was talking about. She's putting her property back on the market. Sellers are still realizing incredible equity at this point. It's just a matter of what their replacement home strategies may look like, or if it's an investment property. So you should probably start to see some movement this summer, but I know a lot of markets are running less than a month and a half, in some cases even smaller, of inventory, which it sounds like a detriment, but it also gives us opportunity to be able to go out and actually talk to folks who may have been thinking about putting their properties on the market but haven't. So not being reliant on existing inventory to feed us, because even if if you have a buyer that wants to buy, we're back to the multiple offer over asking scenarios. So time to create some new inventory.
Right.
All right. So guys, welcome. I know we've been just free talking. I've been giving people time to jump in. But how many of you are team leaders or running a business with more than just yourself? In other words, are you just an independent contractor agent, or are you a team or aspiring to be a team? I know two of you are for sure. Tabitha, how about you? And Tabitha may be having some mic issues. Carla, how about you? Tell me a little bit about your business model.
I'm solo. I
Okay.
haven't been in a team, or I do help agents. Like sometimes we work together, but that's about it. We don't create teams.
What's your goal behind working with an agent when you say sometimes we work together? Unpack that a little bit for me.
Um, well, I have a friend, realtor, going through chemo, so I've been helping him on and off when he's getting treatments.
Got it. Okay. So you're
Just like different situations.
got it. Okay. And how does that work out for you? Is that fairly lucrative? Do you find it to be particularly time consuming? How does that work out for you?
I sometimes it's time consuming.
For sure, right? And that's kind of why I asked that question. I will tell you, we are all, or at least most of us have been in the business of chasing a deal wherever a deal is, right? We're always trying to turn over rocks to find money. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. But I will say, as you're looking at streamlining your practice and becoming more proficient in the things that we do on a regular basis, sometimes chasing money is just chasing money. You know what I mean? Like you said, it's
Mhm.
time consuming. We spent lots of hours, man hours on a deal that our end up net result is, significantly less than had we not performed in that way. So, that's some ways to think about it. But, today what I really want to talk about, even right now, Carla, as you're or you're functioning as an independent practitioner, is looking at what kind of leader are you. The fact that agents actually seek you out, to assist them, or however it comes about. It's always about leadership. It always boils down to, why do people follow me? How do people follow me? What is it that I'm sharing with others that make them want to engage with me? So let me ask the room a question. Do we influence others, or do we manipulate others? And the reason I ask that question is, when we're in a business that involves some type of selling, right? Technically, we really aren't salespeople. We help people adjust to lifestyles, but are we more manipulative? Do we coerce, or are we more influencers?
I feel like I'm more influencer,
Okay.
and sometimes people try to manipulate me.
How so?
Like, for instance, helping somebody, and then at the end they just want me to do showings, and we're not really going 50-50, or I'm doing all the work, but then except for writing the offer, and but I went to show the house, I went to through the inspection, and went for the walkthrough, and went to give them the keys, and I don't get paid. Just one
Got it.
time. Just one time, but it's not happening again. I
Hey,
learned
all
to
it
say
takes is
no.
one time, right? Leaves a bad taste in our mouth on that one time for
Well,
sure.
especially when you're busy, like, it wasn't like on my free time. I was busy and trying to say no, but they would keep asking, "Well, what about this time? Will this time work for you?" And you learn.
Hey, sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened. Um, yeah, I mean, certainly people will try and manipulate us. That's kind of the nature of the business, right? Whether it's our clients who kind of want to manipulate us from a pricing standpoint, or a cash rebate. I mean, I'm sure we've all had that experience, the whole cash rebate. Um, so, given that experience and saying that it's not going to happen again, what are some things that you do to safeguard your business and your business practice?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking the
Oh,
room, but more
oh.
specifically you, since we're talking.
Well, I always try to be fair, and even if somebody goes and shows the property, I pay them one way or the other. But it's like I always feel like everybody's time is valuable.
Everybody's time is valuable. So, Carla, so we're halfway through the year right now. I mean, I think we can all agree we're right at the Midland juncture, right? We're June whatever today is, 6th, 7th, June 7th. Are you where you want to be in business right now?
No.
So what's holding you back from you being where you are? What your goals set for this year? And don't say inventory. So I really want you to think about it.
No, I need to be more focused. I'm working on it, and I'm just like working on the business.
Okay. So let's draw in on that word focus. And this is a good starting point to kind of talk about what's called core leadership theories. So knowing a couple of you, I know that you've been involved in leadership or leadership aspects in the past, but when we start off talking about leadership, what is leadership, right? We're all leaders in many different ways in our lives, right? We are all leaders in some facet. But why are some leaders successful and why do others fail? What makes a successful leader? And the truth is, there's no real magic combination of things that makes a successful leader. Different characteristics serve each person in a different way. Um, uh, Janet could be an excellent organizational person, but not necessarily be a great leader, or vice versa, is a great leader because she is very organized. I could be very organized and not be a great leader at all, right? So sometimes we look at, are we playing to our strengths? You guys have all heard the old adage, they're a natural born leader. I've talked about this before. That's a fallacy. It's a myth. Nobody is a natural born leader. There are things that we all ascribe to. Some of those things are like confidence. Confidence causes people to follow us. When we're doing well in business, it causes people to follow us, right? Thereby making us de facto leaders. It's not the things we're doing, it's not the things we're saying more specifically, it's the things that we're doing. Or sometimes it's, a component of our personality that has people kind of magnetically drawn to you just based on who you may be as a human being. But anyone can learn to be an effective leader. And by the way, being a leader sucks, on many different levels. And I say that with kindness, right? I've been in leadership, pretty much in some form or facet my entire adult life. But it also causes you to make decisions sometimes that are unpopular. It has you do things that people don't agree with. It alienates you from others in many respects. But there's a fine balance between all of that. So as we talk about learning to be a leader or really enhancing our existing leadership skills, I really kind of want to draw into that. Does anybody have any questions or anything they want to add before I just kind of jump right into this? All right, I'll take that as go ahead and jump, D. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and jump. So, as we look at, what a leader is. So we talk about leadership styles, and in a previous session, I've covered leadership styles. But one of those things is, transformational leadership. As we look at, just the change of us from teenagers to an adult or young adult, and from a young adult to a functioning adult. Young adults aren't always functioning, right? They just have the license and ability to get crazy and do stupid things. But as we actually start to make more sounder decisions in our lives, that's where I look at the process of adulthood beginning. And sometimes that's not until 30, 40, 45 years old, for some people, which is not a bad thing for sure. You get a bunch of mistakes in early, which are learning opportunities, and then you're able to put a framework around, what goals and aspirations that you're looking for in your life. So when we talk about leadership, or more specifically, the core theory of leadership, there are four specific groups inside of the core theory. And there are many theories that exist, but these are really the foundational things that we look at as we look at processing our, what kind of leader we are. And the reason why being or helping to identify what kind of leader you are is it speaks to how you hire and how you can help your team to generate revenue. So I've talked a lot about this recently, which is it's very easy to hire another realtor, right? It's very easy to hire another realtor because realtors get into cycles of non-productiveness or have never been productive at all. That's kind of the nature of the business. When we get into an entrepreneurial business like real estate, we don't really have a boss anymore if we came from a job environment. And most of us have come from some form of a job environment. In that job environment, you got somebody coming up, standing behind you, looking over your shoulder, kind of going, when's that report going to be due? Or, how many more do you have to go? I gave you X amount to do today, things like that, right? They're giving us tasks, and, we're trading time as a form of payment for those tasks. And, that's basically how we get paid. But, when we transition into a business model to where there is no overlord, there is no person who checks in on you every morning, kind of going, okay, you got these 6 things to do. I need these done by 5. It's just us. So it already creates an inaccurate leadership theory for us, because now we're left to our own devices. We're left to the options of being able to do whatever we want. And, we use the excuse quite often, which is, hey, but it's my business. I can do what I want. It's, I can be late if I want to. I don't have to start working until noon. But again, there's no successful business model that doesn't, that functions under such a premise. But we allow ourselves to do it in real estate for some odd reason, not even sure. And it's mostly because nobody really tells us how to kickstart our practice. Nobody drags you in the room and go, okay, this is what you need to do. This is what's going to happen, right? Typically, we have to pay someone to help us understand that, like a coach, or, sometimes it's your broker who really kind of helps to shape what your ideas are in order to create direction. But as we look at the 4 different core theories of what makes a leader, right? Sometimes we talk about traits. It's actually called a trait theory. They have certain traits or characteristics about them in their personality that would afford them opportunities to be a leader. Believe it or not, sometimes it's just your physical being that allows you to be a leader, even though you may not know what to do with what that entails, or how that enables you to be a leader. And things, what I'm talking about specifically are things like physical appearance. Very attractive people are sometimes really good leaders. And it's not because they're doing anything special. It's because humans by nature are attracted to other humans. And then when you've got a really dynamic looking human being, we're naturally drawn to that human being. I mean, you think about, Hollywood or the music industry or things like that. We're attracted to those people just because of their physical presence in some respects, right? I mean, I've watched movies with horrible actors, but I thought that actor may look good, or there's something about them that created a presence for that person. So sometimes it's as simple as those things. Obviously we have to hone what that looks like, but it's as simple as those things. But we look for personality characteristics as we talk about the trait theory of what makes a good leader. So early trait theories suggested that leadership is kind of an innate instinctive quality that either you have or you don't have. But as I said, we've moved away from that idea because it really isn't something people are born with. You're not born a leader. Leadership is by design. It's through study, through active work, lots of things. Again, developing true leadership qualities takes time, like anything else that we do in life, right? So trait theory also helps us to identify qualities such as integrity, empathy, assertiveness, good decision making, obviously likability. All those things, kind of fall in the buckets of things like authentic leadership. You guys may have heard people are looking to be their authentic selves these days, or ethical leadership. Those are traits we're attracted to. Those kind of all sit in the formula of confidence to me, right? When you know what you're doing, when you're doing it to where there's a win-win, like you suggested, Carla, to where everybody, is happy at the end of the day, that falls in that more ethical leadership bucket. And, highly critical, highly crucial. I know that I'm attracted to ethical people. Life is always gray. So, ethic may be a construct or a theory for some of us, but And again, I know that life is always gray. I've walked the gray side too, but it still resides within the framework of ethics for me. And I've known a lot of unethical people in this business, particularly, but just in life. So looking at the things that attract me, or sometimes how I um, how I analyze what type of leader I am, by the people that I attract or by who I'm attracted to. But these traits as a standalone don't guarantee that you're going to be a successful leader, right? There's a lot of external behaviors that happen as we become more confident in ourselves. Like, think about when you joined or when you got into into the real estate industry. um, would you guys all agree that the real estate industry can be confusing as hell sometimes? Right? Is that something that you've all experienced, or has it always been just straightforward? Nope, you just do this thing, this is what happens, and boom, a gumball pops out. You guys ever had any opportunities for real estate to just be the most confusing thing you've ever been in?
Absolutely.
Right?
Sometimes.
Sometimes, right? Not
Not
all the
always.
time. Sometimes. I mean, it is this thing that it's a head scratch every morning we wake up, and sometimes we bang our heads against the wall and go, why the hell am I doing this thing? Why am I in this? I should just go get a job, or I should just go do what I used to do, or something like that. Because real estate is tough. Sometimes being a leader, or putting yourself on that leadership hat on, it's really kind of, how does a leader work through the hard stuff? And, there are days where it's all hard. Right now, one thing that we're all experiencing is a very difficult market. And it's difficult only because there's a lack of inventory. But, ask yourselves, is real estate transacted every single day? And I think you'll all find that the answer is absolutely yes. Real estate is transacted every single day, just not by us, right? There are some people who are out there kind of swinging the bat no matter what. They're swinging the low pitches, they're swinging at the high pitches, they're swinging middle, but either way, they're going out there and doing the deal every single day. It's easy for us to take ourselves off the hook. And as a leader, if we're doing those things, anybody that we're attracting are also doing those things, right? They may like us now because we're more of that, what's called a laissez-faire leader, kind of, I'm just going to let you do your thing. Hey, I know it's tough. I'm aligning with you. It's a form of empathy. Yeah, it's tough. You're right. Go do your thing. Um, you know, that has its advantages, and it also has definite disadvantages in being that type of leader. So, looking at what's most effective, and it's positioned in what your internal belief is and your internal processes. That's kind of really where you become a more effective leader. A couple of weeks ago, I talked about level 5 leadership and the different levels of what that looks like. And, I'll kind of summarize it briefly, or just give a quick review of it. So essentially, there are 5 different levels of leadership, or, essentially 5 different levels of leadership. And again, talking about what actually makes a leader great, and you fall pretty much in one of these buckets or levels. And so the first one is a highly capable individual. That's a level 1 leader. In other words, people follow you because you are damn good at what you do. You go out and you're crushing it, and no matter what you assess a strong realtor or real estate professional to be, somebody who does 10, 20, 30 million dollars consistently every year in gross production, things like that, that's going to cause somebody to follow you. That was kind of how I got into leadership in real estate myself, which was I had transitioned from a career in medicine to real estate. And because of what I did, I was used to interviewing people every day or talking to others. I didn't really have any deficits in that market, so I could engage others very quickly. Which, as you know, that's one of the core strengths that we have as realtors, is the ability to engage and stay focused and on target with what the objective is. So I had a lot of practice at that, which afforded me some really good opportunities in my early stages of my career, and it caused me to be successful fairly early, based on those things. So I had people drawn to me just from, gosh, how did you do that? What are you doing? Can I work with you? That kind of thing. But it wasn't necessarily I had a design to be in any leadership capacity per se in real estate. So I started off very much as a level one realtor or level one leader, a highly capable leader. A level two leader is somebody who's what's called a contributing team member. So, and that this is where a lot of leaders sit, or, team leads or business owners, is they're using their knowledge and their skills to help their team succeed. So, they're working effectively and productively, so that everybody kind of feeds from the same or drinks from the same well. That's called a contributing team member. It's a level two leader. A level three leader is what's called a competent manager. It's when you're able to organize a group effectively to achieve specific goals and objectives. You've got your team humming. Everybody knows their position, right? A good quarterback, in football would be a competent manager, right? They're helping their team to achieve specific results, to satisfy a common goal. That's where a lot of folks who are doing good business want to be, is that level three realtor or that level three team lead. But when we start to really look at our business model and where we want to go from here, we want to get to those level 4 and 5 leadership attributes. And a level 4 is a person that most really good leaders fall into. They're capable, they're able to pull lots of people together for a common goal. They're able to meet performance objectives. They understand their vision. They really know what things need to look like, and they're not afraid to make decisions around what that looks like. That's an effective leader. I think over time, that's where I've gotten to as an effective leader. But I don't think I'm a level 5 leader yet, which is something that I still have yet to achieve. So a level 5 leader is basically someone who combines all of those: the highly capable, the contributing team member, the competent manager, the effective leader. And so at a level 5, all those abilities are clicking. Plus, they have a blend of humility, and they don't let that success really kind of taint them or cloud their judgment. They're able to just kind of move forward. There's a great book that kind of talks about this stuff. It's called The Triumph of Humility and Fierce Resolve. And it's solely geared for leadership. And it's a book by a guy named Jim Collins. It came out roughly 20 years ago or so. But it's a really good read. It's technical in nature, but it's a fairly easy read. So if you're into reading at all, and I think it might be in an ebook, but I'm not 100% sure, you may want to look at that. But what does it take to become a level 5 leader, right? It takes time and effort. It can be done, but there's a lot of passion involved. There's a lot of sacrifice involved in being a level 5 leader. If you're not a humble person, developing humility, particularly after you've had some success, it takes a while, right? Sometimes confidence is painted as arrogance, right? People may feel like you're arrogant if you're confident. So, kind of finding the balance between humility and confidence without feeling arrogant is a tough call. And then, as we talked about some of the principles of core leadership, there's that aspect of, am I that laissez-faire type of leader who, just allows everybody to do whatever? Am I cool with, hey, just do your thing, let everybody live their life, right? Many of us live our lives in that way. It's like, hey, whatever anybody wants to do is cool with me. Is that a strong and effective leader? Could be. I'm not going to say it's not. But, if you find that time over time, you're not actually hitting where you want your goals to be, you may want to look at how are you leading yourself, right? How we lead ourselves is more than likely how we're going to lead others on so many levels. So, um, you know, back in the back in the 30s and 40s, there was a psychologist who developed a framework based on behavior of great leaders, and he kind of identified you know, three specific types of leadership behavior. So I've already talked about laissez-faire leaders, the folks who really don't interfere. You know, they allow people to do and make their own decisions within the team framework. You know, it works. That type of leader works really good, really well when you have a highly capable performer, right? We talked about that first level of leadership. So when you're dealing with folks who absolutely know what the heck they're doing, right? And you know they're going to get the job done, they like working with you because there's a level of synergy that exists. um, you know, laissez-faire leaders are perfect, right? Because there's no micromanaging. I don't need to look over your shoulder every 30 seconds to make sure you're performing the task, all those things. So it absolutely has value. That's why I said it's not a good thing or a bad thing. Sometimes that type of leadership, though, is kind of lazy or distracted leadership. So, you know, you're letting people do what they're going to do because you know they're already going to do it, but you're not really guiding them and leading them. They're already going in the direction that they would have gone with or without you. But then you've got a couple of other leadership styles that exist within that framework. And one is an autocratic leader. And that autocratic leader is that person who is really kind of holding the strings very tightly. They're the ones that make decisions without even consulting, you know, how that may impact the team. Sometimes parents are very autocratic people because, you know, as a parent, particularly if you have young children or grandchildren, you have to be. You can't leave the decisions up to the uninformed or the unaware or the undereducated, right? Sometimes you have to make decisions like that. Like, there's no way I'm going to let my 6-year-old grandson drive a car. And no matter how much he told me, but I'll be a good driver, right? That would be irresponsible of me, you know, and there are plenty of life events that happen in that way. So it's not necessarily bad to be an autocratic leader. But again, if you find that you're an autocratic leader, in other words, someone who's always taking the reins and making the decisions, making them quickly without any input, you may want to assess what type of team you're trying to hire. Typically, that type of leader is best suited for folks who need a lot of direction, who need a lot of handholding, so to speak, who aren't fully engaged with what they need to do from a day to day in order to have their own success. So, autocratic leaders have their place and their purpose, and certainly there's no one leader or leadership style or framework that's better than the other, but it also speaks to the type of people that you're trying to engage as either a team member or someone you want to work with, things like that. So you have to be somewhat careful as you look at that. And then you've got a democratic leader, you know, which is kind of the 180 of an autocratic leader. A democratic leader is a person who um, kind of is always throwing it out to say, hey, what do you guys think? Should we have pizza or should we have, I don't know, spaghetti, you know, and then, you know, letting people make a decision. Sometimes when you're putting an important decision out for everyone to make, you're actually saying, let's not move forward with this activity, because getting people to agree sometimes is a very difficult process. So that democratic leader, um, again, is probably dealing with a type of a team member who is already being performant in many ways and having some levels of success. And this is just, I want to make sure that, you know, we're all in agreement before we move forward. But again, managing lots of different perspectives and ideas can really stall growth, right? Everybody, oh, let's have a meeting about this meeting that we just had, right? I sometimes get into those types of things myself. You know, when you're in leadership, you've got multiple leaders who all have an idea based on direction or where things should go, and sometimes those things don't align in a way that can make a decision quickly. Our country just went through some nonsense like this, which is what we do all the time. But when we were talking about how to handle the debt, we seemingly couldn't make a decision because you had so many voices piping in to say, I think we should do this, or this may work, but this may not work, those kinds of things. So ask yourself, where do you fit in on in that framework? Are you an autocratic leader to where you're always making the decisions? Are you more democratic to where you're throwing it out there and letting people choose which flavor they like? And that, by the way, sometimes does not allow the win-win, only because people are self-centered at the end of the day. And that's not a bad thing either. It's self-centered is about survival. And then finally, the laissez-faire leader, which is just, you guys do what you want to do, or do what you're going to do. I know you guys are going to get it right, right? So, and sometimes you're a combination of all of those things. That, to me, probably is the best mix of a leader, is all three of these things at different times. Sometimes we absolutely have to make decisions. I did this for the good of us. Sometimes I'm going to talk to you about it. Sometimes I'm just going to be hands off. All three of those things. And most of us possess the core of those, in some form or fashion, but we tend to lead or lean more one way or the other. Some of you have maybe taken temperament sorters in the past, like a Kersey temperament sorter, or Briggs Myers temperament sorter, things like that. And we kind of lean on those things, and say I'm a high D, or things like that. Those things are an amalgam of different components of who we are as an individual. Human beings, we're multifaceted, right? So you can't clearly say I'm just this one thing. You hear people talk about personality types. Oh, they're a type A. Well, we all have type A components in our framework. Type A is that type of person who tends to be more of an obsessive compulsive type of individual. Things have to be in their right order at the right time. But we all have aspects of that, just depending on what it is. So these things are usually an amalgam of themselves. So it's not just one or the other. But as you're looking at developing your leadership style and subsequently hiring people, or enhancing your team so that there's a right mix, you have to really kind of start to pull the covers back on who you are. And by the way, actually understanding ourselves, which is a life journey, I think we all know that, right? Actually understanding ourselves takes a lot. It takes a lot to really be comfortable in our own skin. And it takes a lot to actually look in the mirror with honesty and say, this is who I am, this is what I am, this is where I am. But conversely, this is where I want to be, and these are the steps that I'm going to take to get there. So, if you're wanting to climb a mountain, but the reality is you're standing in a 4-foot hole, or a 6-foot hole, or an 8-foot hole, you have to figure out how to get out of the hole first, get on solid ground before you can even think to tackle the mountain, right? Because you can't tackle the mountain from the position that you're in presently. So kind of as we talk a little bit more about the 4 core, we just covered basically the trait theory about what type of person may make a good leader. But then we get into, the behavioral aspect. So, given my background, I focus a lot on behavior, just because that's what I know really, really well. And it's hard to turn off those things once they're turned on, right? It's hard to put the genie back in the bottle, as they say. But we just covered behavioral aspects. Let's look at contingency aspects, and what does that actually mean? So realistically, contingencies are all about situational influence, or the things that we run across on a daily basis. That's called a contingency theory. What how does a situation influence good leadership? In real estate, we're constantly faced with situations that cause us to address what kind of leader we are, whether we have a team or don't have a team. Um, you know, um, uh, God, I just lost my train of thought. Carla was just talking about, how she always tries to exercise the win-win dynamic for her. She wants everybody to be happy. And that sometimes causes us to be in situations to where there's no way we're going to be happy unless we make somebody else happy, which usually means we're unhappy, right? So these theories can kind of predict what style of personality that you have, these particular situations. So are you as a leader a person who makes quick decisions, right? Are you able to make decisions quickly? And then typically, is the outcome of those quick decisions successful or unsuccessful? Are they usually supported by your team? Those kinds of things. Do you find that you're more task oriented than people oriented? So and again, I know I get theoretical, but there's a few different uh, models that are based on contingency theories, that many psychologists use, both from a lifestyle standpoint and then assessing leaders in business. So, they usually develop something called a leadership process module, which is, again, like those temperament sorters that I just mentioned. It helps you to understand what kind of leader you are. If you guys like, I can find one and send it out to each one of you so that you can take it and really kind of do that self-assessment to see where you may sit. Um, but basically, a contingency theory is literally, as a leader, how do you handle situations? And we're thrown into situations every single day. Janet was talking about how she took the lead on, working with vendors in order to get the property that she has listed on the market. And that's one of those contingency theory leader models. It's where it's like, I've got to make decisions on what this looks like based on my knowledge, and it usually comes from an informed or an educated standpoint. And then, of course, you have what we talked about is influence or power. And again, influence and power in theories in leadership is really kind of a completely different approach. Sometimes it's just your physical presence that causes you to be a leader, even if you don't know what to do with. People look up to you. I think some of you haven't met me, but I'm a large man, a tall person, and sometimes just being a physically imposing person causes people to go, "Oh my gosh, yeah, maybe you know where to go," right? It's just how we're conditioned as humans. Strange thing, but it's very true. So when we talk about an influence theory model or a power model, it's really talking more specifically about what's called positional power. Positional power is legitimate. I mean, it's actually that thing to where, I'm sitting at the head of the table for a reason, right? Our president, our governor, our mayors, our congress people, those are positional power, or leaders, right? They're able to influence or sway how we think or the things that we do, based on their position of power. So just being that type of leader all by itself has merit. So when we talk about that positional power, we also talk about, are they a subject matter expert or are they just very good charmers? Like our current governor, I'm not sure if he's is he just a charmer or is he an actual expert? Because some of the things that he may say and do not align with some of the things that I think. But he's an influential person because of the fact that he's the governor of the state that I live in. And then we've got something called that fit within that same power and influence, what's called transactional leadership. Transactional leadership also happens in our interpersonal relationships. That's kind of that risk reward, give or take kind of a thing. It focuses more on task reward, versus just being that charmer or being that person in power. It's designed, if you do this thing, I'll do this thing. It's also contingent or conditional if you want to look at it that way. But transactional leaders, it may not be the most attractive type of leader or the most appealing type of leader, but it's great for building relationships and developing a great work environment, a highly motivated work environment. You know, most, in my opinion, most really successful leaders are that transactional type of leader. And, you know, when I think about, you know, a transactional leader and, you know, kind of what they really bring to the table, you look at some of the best, that's the wrong word, some of the most successful people I think on the planet have been transactional leaders. Um, you know, you look at someone who's like, boy, my brain's not working. I'm trying to think of who I could put in the bucket of a transactional leader. Um, gosh, maybe like uh, somebody like Winston Churchill or somebody like Martin Luther King, somebody like that. Those are more transactional leaders. Those are people, or those are persons who literally built relationships and motivated others, you know, strong work environments. Those are just a couple of names that come to mind. Um, you know, it's kind of in a sense like leading by example. These are the things I believe in. These are the things that I'm trying to impart to you so that you have a better or more insightful approach to the things that you do. That's, you know, that's kind of a good way to think about it. Um, gosh, I wish I could think of somebody else, but I'm drawing a blank on who else that might be. So, okay. So as we talk about these things and kind of start to look at how we can wrap this up, I know I'm throwing a lot of heady stuff at you guys, but it's only because I really want you to think about um, as you're growing your business and how does all this very heady stuff translate into real estate. Real estate is a very strange mixture of lifestyle, of how we socialize others, how we socialize with others, and how we develop our skills both personally and professionally. Real estate's a business to where your personal life frequently overlaps with your professional life, which is what's so confusing about how we grow and develop. We feel oftentimes that when we're working with others, we're making friends, right? Have any of you felt that way? Have any of you had that experience? Like, this is my new friend, this is my new best friend. We're gonna go hang, we're gonna go to wine country, we're gonna go Vegas, we're gonna do these things. Have any of you felt that way in your real estate career? Oh, you're gonna say it's just me, huh? All right, I understand. But
all the time.
all the time, right? I mean, you know,
Just
that's
did it
the
yesterday.
did it yesterday, right? It's the nature of the business. It's we meet people, we like them, they're components that that we're attracted to, and they're attracted to us. And it's hard to keep it as just a transactional relationship sometimes, you know, because these are people that you know you'd like to see in your life on some level, right? Not necessarily, you know, to the intimate levels of your life, but you know that's how we relate to people. So that's where we get very confused and we have these very gray lines, and it makes it more difficult to create effective leadership habits because, you know, they know things about us that also make us vulnerable and vice versa. And those things kind of cause us to be ineffective leaders because it causes pause when we're wanting to deliver hard messages, because they do feel like friends. They, you know, we are more than just a friendly business relationship. So as you're looking to grow and develop and really kind of get your leadership game tight and subsequently start to hire or you know, enhance the team that you already have, really take some time to figure out where you are. Next week, I'll talk a little bit more about, you know, how to get to this leadership plateau that we're all wanting to be on. Again, lots of this theoretical stuff. The reason I focus on it is I think it's always crucial to have some backstory into um, who you are, what you want to be, what it looks like for everybody, and how to get to the thing that you actually want. But it's just like you wanting to have a very thriving, high producing business. There are lots of steps in between to get you there. And it's which ones are you going to tackle? Which ones are you not going to tackle? I hope some of this was helpful. Like I said, I know it's a bit heady, but if you've got any questions around it, don't hesitate to hit me up. And as always, I really truly appreciate you guys taking time out in the day to come and hang with me and listen to me ramble on for an hour. But yeah, any questions before I let you guys go and do your thing? Awesome. Everybody, I really appreciate your time today. Thanks for participating, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, everybody. Janet, we'll catch up this